and push it back in, you have to use a lot of pressure to push it back in, then you're not allowed to push it back in because that's considered building. And even if you don't put it in tight, just light, but being that usually you put it tight, so you can't even put it lightly, even if you're not using so much pressure, because there's a decree that you might end up making it very tight. And then we spoke about also the kids would play with Legos and different things. They clicks together and they're building it. So we discussed, is this an issue? So just want to clarify a little more about that. So it seems that there are some opinions that would be strict about it. Now, I'm not discussing now the age of the child. There's another discussion. If the child is 5 years old or 4 years old, let's say, do we have to stop him or not? What is the age of where we have to educate the child? We're not going there. We're just discussing the halacha in itself. Is this considered building? So if the clicks, so the way it's used now, the way generally the clicks are used, they build something and it's not meant to stay this way. They usually take it apart on Shabbos, then it's not an issue at all. But if let's say they're building it and they plan to leave it this way, then there are some opinions who are strict about it, even though we said that it's not, you don't have to use force to do it, so it's not really an issue of building. So it seems that there's some opinions that want to be strict about it. So again, if the way generally kids play these days, it's not meant to stay this way. They play with it, and a few hours later they'll break it. Then it's not an issue. But if they plan to build something, they want it's going to stay this way for a while, a few days, then there are some opinions who want to be strict about it. So it's best to be strict. Again, we're not discussing now the ages of the child. If it's a 3-year-old child, it's not an issue. But I don't want to go. That's like a topic in itself. From which age do we start educating them that you can't do this and you have to tell them not to do it? That's another discussion. Now, you have a new pair of shoes and you did not put the shoelaces in before Shabbos, and you want to put on the shoes on Shabbos and there's no shoelaces there. So you want to put in the shoelaces. It's a new pair of shoes, it's new shoelaces, and you're going to put in the new shoelaces into the shoes. Is that okay?
No, is it like finishing touches?
Huh?
Is it
No.
Like
correct. It's tikkun keli. That's completing. That's making the shoe fit to be used. It's tikkun keli. That comes from Makib Pratish. That's what we call. Oh, it's right here. Oh, excellent. Tikkun keli. You're completing the keli, making the shoe fit. Now, what about if the shoelace is torn and you need to put in new shoelaces? So it was already a shoe before. The shoe was already a shoe. Now the shoelace is torn. You want to put in new shoelaces. Is that so? That already is a machlokes. There are opinions that permit it. So this is something one can be lenient, one can be strict. It can go either way. There are solid opinions in both directions. So is it better to be strict? It's probably, but there are very strong opinions. Maybe strong opinions mean opinions that are accepted. Like the Ktseis Shulchan of Chaim Noah, he says that it's okay because it was a shoe till now. It was a functioning item. You're just replacing the shoelace. So luckily, you could put in new shoelaces.
A shoelace just for putting new shoelaces, but then one that's broken. Like both are just creating a shoe which to wear.
Putting new shoelaces or one that's broken?
I'm saying like.
What do you mean one that's broken?
In the first instance, you said that you're putting in putting in a shoelaces.
A brand new pair of shoes, you never wore it before. It has no laces. You're putting in new shoelaces. You can't. That's for sure. That you can't do.
Okay.
But now you have a pair of shoes it's a functioning shoe. You're wearing it. The shoelace is torn. Now the shoelace is torn. You want to put in new shoelaces.
I don't get how it's different to the first then. Because it's already an existing
Because in the
vessel?
first case, it was never a shoe. It was never worn. It was never a fit. It was never a functioning item.
But it is a functioning, because you bought them with the purpose to wear them.
Yeah, but you can't wear it the way it's now. It's not. That's not how you wear it. You don't wear shoes without shoelaces. So this shoe never was like a finished product. Now the shoelace is completed. But over here, it's already a functioning item. It was a functioning shoe. So now, at our piece, I say it's okay. Okay. In the halacha building, in the halacha building, there is also prohibitions that Chachamim made that could lead to building. So, for example, this is the topic called oil. So we know about the oil, we go to the oil. And then there's also oil means tent. So Chacham taught us that you cannot make a tent to cover us, to protect us. Basically, what's the definition of a house? How is a house different than anything else? A house is to protect us. If you have a house and there's leaks in it, it's not a house. So when you have something to cover you, to protect you, this is considered something that has a similarity to building in a sense, more than just putting a partition. So whereas putting up a partition is okay, or like a mechitza between men and women, but to put something over you to protect you from the sun, from the rain, that's not allowed. That's rabbinically prohibited. It's a decree because you might come to building. So a very practical example is you cannot open an umbrella on Shabbos and walk outside with an umbrella. Now you're going to say, of course you can't walk with an umbrella because you can't carry. I'm not discussing carrying. Let's say that you're in a place where there's a proper Eid that's accepted. Yeah, not like over here with Eid is not an accepted Eid, a proper Eid. So if it says a proper Eid you're allowed to carry, so you still can't walk with an umbrella on Shabbos and on Yom Tov too, because that's oil that's making a tent over you to protect you. Or what if it's not an umbrella, just to hold something up? Hold a big sheet, hold it over your head to protect it. It's very sunny. You're sitting outside in your backyard and the sun is like, take a sheet, go in there, hold it over you, protect you from the sun. Not allowed to do that. So another practical example would be
Sorry, can you spell the word like the I?
oil.
Yeah.
Now a tarp, putting a tarp over a sukkah. Many times you want to protect the sukkah, it's going to rain, and you're putting a tarp over the sukkah. Is that an issue of oil? Does anyone have any thoughts on this? So you can't put something to protect you, to protect anything.
Yeah, would be oil.
Would that be oil putting a tarp over the sukkah?
What, is it protecting you? Or like,
Oil is also to protect anything. If it's to protect, doesn't matter what it's protecting.
then yeah.
It would seem to be an issue.
But-
However, the reason why it's not an issue is because oil is only an issue if there's space underneath it. What's the definition of a tent? A tent is that it's covering something. That means there's space over you. It's going over and the space underneath it. But if I take something, let's say I want to cover the table with a tablecloth. You know what? Someone's going to tell you that you can't put a tablecloth over a tablecloth. It's oil. Why are you putting it? I want to protect the table. So it's a tent. I'm putting it. What?
There's no space. It's flat on the table.
Exactly. That's why it's okay. Same thing with the sukkah. The reason why the sukkah is okay because the covering is flat over the sukkah, there's no space underneath it. So if it was, sometimes you have these awnings, I think it's called the awning, that comes over the sukkah. So this is the schach, and it comes like this. That's a problem. You can't open up the awning. What am I saying? The awning. There's a sukkah, and then you have something built into the wall that comes out to cover the sukkah. So the space underneath it. It comes.
But there's space underneath this.
Oil means that it's protecting. There has to be space under the oil. Otherwise, it's not. Oil has to be at least like 3 inches underneath it. Becomes an issue.
So you can't put on your sukkah.
You can't put over a sukkah if it's going over this case.
Oh,
Here-
and you're not in the sukkah.
No. I'm doing here. No. This is the sukkah. This is the schach. Schach. I'm on top of the sukkah. I'm very tall. I'm standing over the sukkah. This is the schach. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Now I'm going to have a tarp coming out, going like this over the sukkah. It's coming out of my house, the wall of my house. It's coming out and it's going like this, and it's protecting, and it's not on the sukkah itself. This is going to be a problem. This you can't. However, if it's open at least like 4 inches to be safe, it's really like 3.1, 3.2. So I'm saying 4 to make it simple. If it's already opened, so once it's already opened a little bit, you can open it more. If the whole prohibition is rabbinic, our sages only prohibited to create a new tent, but if it's already open, a tefach, which is about 3.2 inches, so then you can open it more. So for sukkahs, if you have an awning coming out, if you leave the awning open, a little bit open, now you can open it more. Get it? Get what I'm saying?
Basically, if it goes on completely flat, like protecting this table or putting this top on over the scarf, it's fine. But the minute there's space, that's the issue.
Correct, but now I'm saying something else. Even though it's not allowed, but if it's already open like 4 inches, I'm jumping from 4 to 3 because of a reason. Because it's about 3.2. But depending on where we are, what the specific conversation is, we want to be strict. So if I want to tell you that once the oil is already open, a tefach, which is about 3.2, then you can open it more. So I'm saying 4 inches to make it simple. Let me just say 3.2. Okay, I'll make it 3.2 so that I just figured like 3.2. Okay, if it's open 3.2 inches,
Yeah.
then you can open it more. You can increase in the oil once it's already open.
Before Shabbos,
If it's open before Shabbos.
sorry,
I have an awning. What? I can't draw. My kids know how to draw. Not me. They didn't get it from me. Got it from the other side. If it's already open, if it's open a tefach, you have an awning coming out. An awning. You have an awning coming out. You know what an awning is?
No.
I have to show you awning.
Like,
Okay, write down the word awning. You look it
I'll
up.
look it up.
You look it up later. Write down the word awning. Okay. And then later.
This is what you mean.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, but this doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't open. It's completely open. Okay, fine. But I'm discussing with you a little open it more. So it goes on a roller. That's not what it is. This is just an awning.
Okay.
Let's say you have an awning that you can roll it out. So now you don't want to open it. Let's say you have an awning for a sukkah. You don't want to open the sukkah the whole
Shabbos.
right? Because you're using a sukkah. So you open it a little bit, and then you can open it before Shabbos, before Yom Tov, whatever. If it's opened a little bit, then you can open it more.
Can I try and find a correct one just so we can make sure we're on the same page?
Hmm?
If I find one that I think you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that is an awning. But the point is, once it's open, you can open more, or you can add on. You can add another thing you can add another piece to it, saying in a permitted way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, is this clear? Could we?
Yeah, so, but
Yes.
does that mean that the awning has to be over the sukkah before Shabbos? Or no?
Doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's open. You could open it more. The awning. Oh, you mean if the awning is a little open but not over the sukkah?
Like, let's
Doesn't
say-
matter, it's oil. Once it's coming out a little bit, you can open it more. Doesn't matter exactly where it's
But it's
over.
protecting already. I'm saying like, the awning is completely shut, you're not using it.
So once it's open a little bit, you can open it more.
Does
I
that mean
think
it has
that
to
we've
be
never
open
seen an
before
awning that
Shabbos?
can
You know,
open.
let's, right after class, I'll explain it to you. I just don't want to take the whole time. You come to me right after class, I'll explain it. I just want to cover other things.
Wait,
Yeah.
How does this not become an issue of?
Hmm?
Like when we're learning, the laws of sukkah, like the sock has to be like under the stars. How does
Right,
that
right.
become an issue with that? Like if you have an awning over.
Then it's not a kosher sukkah. You can't
okay.
eat there, but we're talking about whether you're allowed to open it on Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yes, of course, while it's over, it's not going to be a kosher sukkah, for sure.
So people
Okay.
just do it to protect it, I guess, like when you're not.
So it's done to protect the rights. You don't want it to, for whatever reason. Obviously, once it's over it. You can't use the sukkah. It's not a kosher sukkah.
Okay, thank you.
But could you make it smaller down to those 4 inches again, or no? Once it's
Yes, you
open?
could make it smaller. You could close it, you could. The issue is opening it. Closing it is not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, sometimes you have nets for a baby carriage to cover the carriage, so bugs don't come in, mosquitoes don't come in. So it's called a mosquito net, and it has little holes in it, tiny little holes to cover it, little holes. That's not called the oil because there's holes in it. So even though you're putting a net over the baby carriage to protect the baby inside, but there's tiny, tiny little holes. So it's not in the category of a oil because there's holes in it. Now, another example of sometimes kids do it and they're not aware that you can't do it. Again, we're not discussing the age, if it's a very young age, it could be not an issue. But we're discussing the law in itself. Sometimes kids like to play and they'll take, let's see, for instance, you take a bunch of chairs, they take a blanket, and they put it over the chairs, then they sit underneath it and you get a kick out of it.
Yeah, making it
This
10
was
to
actually
Okay.
a reason to ask you, yeah.
Right, so this is something you cannot, you're putting a blanket over the chairs, it's something that you cannot do on Shabbos.
So sad.
Any questions about oil? Okay, so let's, other situations of oil is, okay, talking about the malacha of bainim. So sometimes, let's say your glasses break, and sometimes let's say the lens comes out of your glasses, and you want to push it back in, and it's very simple to click back in, right? You know what I'm talking about? The lens comes out of your
Yeah.
glasses, and you just want to push it back in. It's very simple. But you cannot do that, even though you're putting it in lightly, we said before, because you might do it strong. You might push it in strong, and then if you're doing it strong, that is binding, that's building.
Do we have to be blind El Shabbos?
Huh?
So we just can't see El Shabbos? If that-
Well, you can't put it back in.
Could we suggest to a non-Jew to do it?
If he puts it in, if it's very important for you to have it, and he's going to do it lightly, and it's not going to be professional, then it's only rabbinic. Something that's very important and crucial, and it's only a rabbinic prohibition, then you can ask a non-Jew to do it. So it would be okay to ask a non-Jew to do it because it's rabbinic and it's very important. So it depends how important it is. If you really need it,
Is
Yeah.
that asking directly or indirectly?
then you can ask directly. Directly is okay. If it's important.
What happens if you ask a professional who you know will do it like?
The what?
What happens if you ask a professional who you know will do it like
If
they're doing it
you know enough time.
Well, you tell them,
It's repetition, they don't have to
you
do it.
tell them,
Yeah.
you tell them how to do it. You tell them, just put it in. You show them.
We're gonna do it. They can't
If
do
you
it.
ask a Jewish person, no, you
Yeah.
can't ask a Jewish person. If you can't do it, how can you ask a Jew? He's a Jew just like you. You can't ask a Jew to do something just because they're not religious. They're still Jewish. You're not allowed to make them
Yeah.
violate Shabbos. You know, there's a story with this very simple person, simple peasant. The old days, those who did not learn Torah were really ignorant. These days, it's more balanced. There's no one who's really ignorant because these days everything is could Google. You have classes. You go online, so it's very rare to have someone who's really ignorant. But in old days, where people were very ignorant, and then there was scholars that were like amazing, which you don't have these days, like really big scholars, like these days, which the greatest scholar these days doesn't compare at all to years ago. We have many great scholars. It's so these days it's a little more balanced. But it used to be that the people ignorant were very ignorant. The mamish, there was simple things that you would be shocked. So there was a simple peasant that he's living, and also they had different jobs that they had an inn. They had a tavern. They were selling mashka to the goyim, and they were also in a certain way alienated from their fellow Jews, and they barely had any. And also because of that, they had no contact with other Jews. They barely knew anything. So once this Jewish traveler, he came and he met this simple peasant over there, and it was Shabbos. And he noticed when he tells his 20-year-old son to go do something on Shabbos that you're not allowed to carry or to put on the fire, to light, do something you're not allowed. So he went over and he asked him, what's with you? What are you doing? It's Shabbos today. He says, you don't understand. In this place, it's very hard to find a Shabbos guy. So I was very smart. I never made him a bar mitzvah. It's like this, when I need a Shabbos guy, he could still, do things for me. In his simple mind, he didn't make him a bar mitzvah. He was still under bar mitzvah. And a Jew that's under bar mitzvah, even though anyways, you're not supposed to, but it's in a different category, and there's things you are allowed. Anyway, so he thought that the child did not become bar mitzvah because he didn't make them a mitzvah. So
No, yeah.
I only ask because this has happened to me. If I'm we're in the middle of a street or a sidewalk or something, and our glasses lens pops out.
And you what?
One of the lenses of our glasses pops out.
In the street.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So we don't want to step on it. We can't see. We don't want to lose it. We can't tell who's Jewish and not Jewish around us because we cannot see. This has happened to me. What do we do?
Okay, so it's really, it's sort of another topic, but it's on the topic, so I have no choice to answer it. This topic is about carrying now. What do you do? So step one is, so there's different things we can do. Really, we should discuss when we get to carrying, so I could explain in a more organized fashion. That's where we're going to get to carrying in the next month. What do you do if you're if you're carrying in the middle of the street, and you realize you're carrying and it's something that's expensive? So, we'll get to that. Okay, there was a question someone asked on this side that I don't remember was about braids. So braids seems to be making braids is an issue of is an issue on Shabbos. It's considered like building, rabbinic form of building, because you're building. Yeah, braids. Yeah. Rabbinically, it's a form of, so to make braids on Shabbos is a problem.
Can't undo them either, right?
Undoing is also an issue. Yeah, if you can't make it, you can't undo it. Only by the tent, you could undo the tent. But otherwise, by anything that generally, if you can't do it, you can't undo it.
What is the Hebrew word for braiding?
Huh?
What's the word for braiding?
Mikloya. I mean, is that going to help? It's not a classical word in halacha. Why you want to know in Shulchan Aruch language? It's not a classical word. This braids is good enough. It's mikloya. It's not. There's certain words are classical, so I tell it you should know, like terminology, to know that's This is making braids. You don't do braids on Shabbos.
Okay.
Okay, other malachas, other things is about, so I wanted to talk about stitches.
You said about, so you can't braid, what was the condition?
You shouldn't be making braids on Shabbos is prohibited. The chatchil is prohibited. There are those that want to be lenient, but chatchil, it's not proper to make braids on Shabbos to do really good. You do it before Shabbos. We already spoke about combing hair. We're not going to go into that. Combing hair is an issue. You have to be careful not to tear hair. But braiding should not be done on Shabbos. Yeah.
Is there a definition of what a braid is? Does it have to be 3 strands? Is only 2 strands still considered a braid?
I think just build it.
What's the difference? Anytime you're braiding, that's an issue.
Two
Braiding,
strands twisting.
it's like building.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. If you only have 2 strands that you're twisting.
What's the difference?
It's not a braid, it's a twist. Like 2 strands, a lot of little girls have it, like, it's like this.
It's just 2.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
what you mean.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the mount. Okay, taking it and just twisting it like that.
Yeah.
So you said 2, it sounded like you're doing the same braid, but with 2.
No.
Braids is he going like this, right?
Yeah.
And here you're not braiding, you're just going like this.
Yeah, like parents will
Yeah.
do that so their kids don't
Like
get
this,
dreadlocks
okay.
in their sleep.
So I thought, right, so braids, use this, easiest way to work with. Right, so when we're talking about braids, we're talking about you take your hair and you go like this, right?
Yeah.
And you keep on, you're going, you're braiding it, right?
Is that really even braiding
Right?
too?
You're braiding it, right? You see, it's braided.
That's still.
Now you're saying something else. You're going like this. You take everything together, so it's in 2 or 4 or 6 or 10. You take everything, you're going like this. That's not braiding, that's twisting.
Okay.
That's what you meant. Twisting is not an issue.
Okay.
The issue is when you're braiding it. Like when you braid a challah, so you're doing it to here, you're
But
braiding it.
Why is it not an issue to twist it?
Why should it be an issue?
It just feels very similar.
No, it's not braiding. It's specifically braiding. This braiding, it's very different. Here, everything stays the way it is. You're just twisting.
Wait, but can I?
So twisting is not, you're twisting the hair. What's,
Can I just
Yes.
clarify one thing though? Because what you just did was originally you did the 2 like this.
right, we braid a challah,
this.
you don't,
Um,
everyone knows what braiding, I mean, braiding is braiding the hair. I mean, twisting is twisting. Twisting is not a problem. What's that?
What you did didn't seem like.
yeah,
Yeah,
what
it's-
you're, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Baby.
What DC demoed at first that made your
It's
brain
not what
click.
you did.
It's not at all what you just did.
Yeah, he was saying what
The braiding that I did,
Yeah, that's why mine's allowed to use this. No.
you took your hair and you twisted it, right?
No, mine's twisting.
You took
braided
2
two
strands
hairs.
and went like this. He's saying you can't take 2 strands and go like this.
That's what he did. I twisted. Mine's okay, his isn't. He braided 2 strands, I twisted.
He did
a
2
bunch
different
of-
ways.
Okay, I don't care.
What's it do?
Okay.
You could do different types of braids. You could do braids, you could do any way you want, but you're braiding it.
Okay.
But she was showing us you're taking the hairs and you're just twisting it.
Yeah.
So
Just
twisting
if
is not an
yeah,
issue,
it's- Yeah,
only if it's braids.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about stitches on Shabbos. So stitches, what is the issue with stitches on Shabbos? So we learned you're not allowed to sew on Shabbos. Stitches seem to be like sewing. Stitches and stitches is,
Yeah.
it's like sewing. So what's the relevance to us anyways? I mean, if you're gonna be a doctor, you should know, I mean, yeah, that's also, but it's also to understand what happens. Has to show them you need stitches, this happened to me a few times with 2 of my daughters, 3 of my daughters. One was right before Shabbos, and one was on Shabbos, and one happened on Shabbos, and then we had to go right away after Shabbos to get stitches. So just so you understand that from doctors will not do stitches on Shabbos. And they wouldn't do stitches because stitches entails many different malachas, and it's not life-threatening. You need to get stitches. You're not supposed to wait, depending on where the stitches is. Like if it's in the mouth, it's even more crucial. If it's on the foot, it's you don't want to wait too long. If it's other parts, you have more time. It's generally like a 24-hour window to get stitches. So there's no emergency for the Jewish doctor doesn't need to do stitches. They send you to the emergency room. So that's why they will not do stitches, because doing stitches entails many malachas. So just one story that I have with my daughter. This was like over 10 years ago. Now almost 18. So this was like when she's like 7, 11 years ago. These things always happen Shabbos for some reason. I don't know why. Running with the stroller, she falls on her chin, and it opens up in such a way that you need stitches. So I think that was one of the first times. So it's like I thought maybe at that time I thought that maybe the doctor will do it. So I walked with her, holding the tissue, whatever napkin, just it wasn't bleeding. There's no danger there, it wasn't gushing, but you need to do stitches. You get infected. And then we walked to Dr. Rosen's house. We knocked on his door, and he said, "Okay, go to Methodist." We go to Methodist. Yeah, well, so we walked to Methodist together.
How long of a walk was that?
Methodist is 45 minutes. We walked to Methodist. There's no big deal. What?
Was she not bleeding?
She wasn't bleeding.
Right.
Wasn't bleeding. She had something holding it. There wasn't gushing. There was no danger. But stitches, you don't want to wait too long because you get infected, and also for practical reasons, So we walked to Methodist, and they did, and the Berkshire wasn't a Jewish doctor. I think it was a Chinese doctor. And I watched the way he did the stitches, and I learned not how to do stitches, not how to do stitches. I learned why Jewish doctors don't do stitches, which I never knew before. Because when they do stitches, there's so many more malachas than you think there is. So usually, when people talk about stitches, they'll say, even Rabbanim, they'll say, stitches are an issue. There's different opinions of stitches. Some hold that doing stitches is not considered sewing. Stitches is technically sewing. But does the malachas sewing really pertain to a body? Sewing really pertains to clothing, not to the body, to the human body. Some opinions say the stitches doesn't apply, the prohibition of sewing doesn't apply to the body. But there's so many other malachas besides sewing when they do stitches. We learned about kisharim, koisha, tying. They're tying many knots. You know how many knots they're tying as they're doing the stitches? I was watching it. They tie so many permanent knots again and again because they go in, they pull it, they have to tie a knot, and then they go in again. And watch the whole thing. They do like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 15, 20 knots back and forth. Now, there's also something else they have to do. Sometimes there's extra skin, they have to cut off. And that causes some bleeding. I mean, nothing major like scared, they're saying, but there's the malacha of bleeding. So this causing bleeding, this, if you say it's sewing, then there's tying knots. And then I think there's something else also, which I don't recall now. But the knots, they do many knots again and again. Oh, that was something else also. Now, when you finish doing stitches, this extra piece of thread, right? Or whatever it's called, you have to cut it. Remember, we learned that you cannot cut toilet paper or paper towels on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because when you're cutting it, even if you're not cutting it in its exact place on the perforated seam, but anytime you cut something to make it fit for use, so that's tikkun king. That's making it fit for something. So here too, you're sort of completing in a different way. They finish the stitches, and there's a piece of skin. There's a piece of not skin, a piece of thread, whatever it's called, sticking out. It's not a complete job. They have to cut off that piece. Now they're completing it. So there's so many malachas going on when you're doing stitches. That's why they don't do stitches on Shabbos. And hopefully you get a non-Jewish doctor to do it. What if you come and the doctor's Jewish? So there's a discussion about it, and there are opinions that are lenient about it. If he happens to be Jewish, there's a whole explanation. So you don't have to stop him from doing it, but you should try as much as possible not to go to Jewish doctor. That's really, you don't want to go to Jewish doctor. That's not where you want to go. If it happened and he's there and he ends up doing it, there is a leniency for that. But it's not an ideal situation.
So,
Yeah.
what if a family, like, what if there's no hospital around? I've been in this situation again. You get an injury that needs stitches, and the only person available is a family member who is not from, who's a doctor.
So, okay, so this is the thing, it's hard to answer a question that's not relevant and practical because there are so many, there's multiple possibilities of situations, of scenarios here. Any injury, any situation of stitches is different than the other. Like where are the stitches? Inside the mouth, it's on the foot, it's on the face, it's on the hand. Where is it? How big is it? How crucial, how long is it gonna take, this, that, how old is the child, so it's hard to, assessment has to be made when it happens. Is sometimes it could be important. So I remember then when I went, no, there was another time I went with my daughter. She fell. This happened on Shabbos. She fell. She banged herself right here. My 5-year-old, and we went after Shabbos. So then I asked the doctor then, how crucial is it for stitches? Because basically it happened in the middle of Shabbos. We waited. It was already in the middle of the day. We waited till after Shabbos. Asked him, how important is it to like how crucial? So the doctor told me it depends where it is. If it's inside the mouth, then it's very crucial because infection can come much faster. If it's on the foot, it's also, I don't remember if you said which one. I recorded it. I recorded myself afterwards that to have the information. One is if it's on the foot, which one is more crucial, on the foot or in the mouth? One of them. So there's the foot and the mouth is like crucial. But if it's any other part of the body, like on the hand, on the face, face is more of a cosmetic issue, but in terms of medical, he said you have really up to 24 hours to take care of it. So these things are actually good to know, to have more information, if something happens to know, because sometimes people run and rush, and you don't want to go on Shabbos if you could wait. So in other words, if it's not in a covered place, you have up to 24 hours. It's not really urgent. If it happens in the beginning, towards the beginning of Shabbos, let's say Shabbos morning, you can wait till after Shabbos. There's no reason to run, but it depends how big it is. I don't know what to say.
But when you were walking with your daughters in Methodist, was it not an issue of carrying the tissues, like tissues bleeding? Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
So
And like
she was carrying it.
Oh, and she was so young, like.
So first of all, children. First of all, it's necessary. You need it to now, even without the idea that it's, I don't know how crucial it was. Apparently, it was still bleeding. So even besides that, even if it's, let's say it's not like it's mamish dangerous, let's say, it says that a child is allowed to do a rabbinic prohibition for their own benefit, and even for an adult benefit, if it's really important, let's say, and you can't find a non-Jew, then he actually technically allowed to ask a child under Bar Mitzvah to do a rabbinic prohibition for an adult. Okay, but this is really a topic for itself. I don't want you to walk away now with this halacha to say that you could ask a Jewish child to do a rabbinic prohibition for adults. There are conditions involved. There are many conditions. It's not so simple, but there is that concept over there. And especially in this situation when the child really needs it, so for sure it's okay, they could do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Stop it.
Do you usually get through all the malachas when you teach?
Huh?
Do you get through all the malachas usually when you teach here?
Yeah.